Hello everyone, this is Tactical Lich here, and today we have a rather special battle replay. Last week, the Kislev embargo is lifted, and a lot of YouTube content creators have been showcasing a lot of the Kislev army, making me really excited about playing the Winged Lances, the War Bears. They look absolutely amazing, but the problem is, I do not have early access to the content. So I decided, you know what, I will make my own Kislev army in Warhammer 2. So here we are with an army, a front line of great swords. When you think about it, these guys are basically straight sword Tsar guards. With the armor-piercing anti-infantry attacks, and they're heavily armored as well, they will be the elite infantry to hold off enemy forces and also cleave through the chaff of their opponents. At the back we have some Free Company militia, basically unarmored Cossacks, with missile attacks with the pistols, less melee stats, and also unshielded, less armored. Well, they will be providing the missile support and act as a secondary force of infantry to hold back the enemy if needed. Regular armored Cossacks would definitely do much better in melee combat due to them being actual melee infantry. But with the Chevron upgrades, with the leftover funds, they should still hold their own against any low-tier infantry. At the back we have some Empire Knights. Now they do not have wings like the Winged Lances, but they do have feathers on their heads, so that is as close to wings as they can get. Their charge is less good, but will be tankier with their heavy armor. On the right side we have the leadership as well as their bodyguards. With only a warrior priest and Volkmar Grim. On a butted warhorse instead of his altar, he is actually rather similar to Konstantin, both being leaders of their religion, great inspirations to their men. The only difference is probably Volkmar putting in a lot more effort in grooming his mustache, while Konstantin is rather messy with his hair, his clothes, and his beard. And by his side we have a warrior priest, basically a tin can version of the Patriarch of Kislev. These two characters will be buffing the whole not Kislev army. Protecting them we have the Demogryph Knights with halberds, basically warbird riders, providing the anti-large armor piercing attacks, the monstrosity shockhev just like the Warbear riders. Speaking of Warbears, we also have a unit resembling the War Sled of Kislev, but this time they are on wheels. Empire war wagons are not as good in melee combat as the war sled pulled by mighty bears, but the handguns on their back will still be doing some good sniping damage against any enemy armored units. Also for skirmishers we have the pistoliers, essentially cowboy dervishes. They are a glass cannon unit with very high speed but low armor, low leadership, and crap melee stats. They are the low tier skirmish unit providing missile fire support for the army. As for the Dark Elf, we have a very wide front line to push artillery boxes, bleak swords mixed in with dread spears, one of them the Hellebronai, and at the back we have a bunch of cavalry for more rushing purposes. Dark Riders with shields, Cold One Knights, great at countering Empire cavalry, and we also have the Scourge Runner chariots, anti-large armor piercing missiles, a great threat to any single entities, the war wagon / war sled with wheels, and also the heavy cavalry. Leading the Dark Elf army, we have Malekith, the Witch King. Soaring through the skies atop his mighty black dragon, he is bringing in spells including Soul Stealer and Gaze of Malice. And with the army builds done, now let's get the battle started. As the battle begins, the Cowboy Dervishes pushes forward, hoping to get some skirmishing damage done onto the unarmored Dark Riders, and probably do some skirmishing fire into the Scourge Runner chariots as well. Although given the heavy armor of these chariots, their damage will be minimal, and instead they will be hoping to absorb the ammo with their rather cheap cost, instead of the war wagons, or even worse, the characters and the demogryphs eating the anti-large armor piercing missiles. So here we are having the pistoliers pushing forward, just eating all those shots from the Scourge Runners. On this flank we have the other pistolier unit, the other Cowboy Dervishes, basically shooting at whatever targets they can get their hands on, including the backs of these Dark Riders, getting some nice damage done, while the war sleds on wheels will be shooting at Malekith instead, just basically trying to drag him down with those steady armor piercing DPS. And in the front line with all these unarmored Cossacks aiming at these poor Dark Riders, they are obliterated by the crossfire from multiple pistol units. So Malekith will be dropping in, hoping to silence them and just catch them, destroy them in combat, while the Dark Riders are just basically cut down by the actually decent melee combatants of these unarmored Cossacks. Over here, the Dark Riders are caught by the Tin Can Winged Lances or the Featherhead Lances, pushing away one unit of Dark Riders, but the close presence of these Cold One Knights means that they are in great trouble. They need some fire support from the unarmored Corsairs, who will be shooting at the Bleak Swords and some of these Cold One Knights, doing some nice damage, but yet again silenced by Malekith, who is just bouncing across the battlefield. Back to the front line, some of the Free Company Militia / unarmored Corsairs are now tied in combat by Dread Spears and Bleak Swords. With the numbers advantage, they were able to overwhelm the Kislev resistance and shut down the missile units. The Straight Sword Tar Guards, with only 2 units, are not actually able to hold back all the units, so they'll be tying down some of the Cold One Knights, cutting them down with the armor piercing, while the 2 characters, the Tin Can Patriarch, the well-groomed Constantine, as well as the Warbird Riders, are charging in, destroying all these Dread Spears and Hellebranni. The War Wagons / War Sled on Wheels are also charging in, aiding the blob fight with their charge bonus and also their high mass unit models. But then the Dark Elf responded with Malekith and Seraphon dropping into combat, putting in some massive hurt onto some of these War Wagons. While at the back, the Pistoliers and the Free Company Militia will be shooting in, hoping to get some missile damage onto the enemy units. Although the Shades also are firing into the blob, destroying all these armored units, especially the Demigryph Knight, who is receiving a lot of damage resistance buffs from the Grand Shield of Faith, Shield of Faith, and also the Scroll of Shielding. Up to 60% damage resistance. They are tanking for now, but without healing for this build today, as Kislev have very limited healing. Any damage dealt to these Warbird Riders will be permanent. Without healing, replenishing their HP, their durability is severely limited. But still, with the anti-large armor piercing, they are managing to push off Malekith with the help of the characters, while at the back we have the victorious Cold One Knights running down some of these unarmored Corsairs, and unfortunately the Cowboy Dervishes are not able to help, due to them running out of ammo already. On the far side, some of the Cowboy Dervishes have returned from routing. They were engaging in melee combat against some of the Scourge Runners and got routed in combat, successfully wasting a lot of their ammo. Now the Scourge Runners are down to around 1/3 of their ammo stocks. The Scourge Runner chariots have lost quite a bit of their balance of power and their damage potential, while over here we have the Cold One Knights pushing through the infantry and the characters, now trying to hunt down the War Sled on Wheels, actually managing to catch them in combat. So the Pistoliers, who have used up all their ammo, these Cowboy Dervishes will be pinning down the Cold One Knights, using their bodies as a shield to hopefully save these War Sled on Wheels, while the Warrior Priest and also Volkmar Grim will be charging in to support this fight, hoping to beat back all these Cold One Knights. Now in the far front, we have the Great Swords here, the Straight Sword Tsar Guards. They were blending through all these Dark Elf infantry using the anti-infantry bonus. Unfortunately, with Malekith dropping in for rear charge and also the Shades shooting all those armor-piercing missiles, they are obliterated in combat, especially with the charge from the Scourge Runners. Their numbers are depleted and their morale is absolutely destroyed. On the far side, we have some Straight Sword Tsar Guards with their great leadership. They actually managed to regroup, while over here some regrouped Featherhead Lancers will be pulling back, hoping to regroup with the rest of the Empire army, while over here the Cowboy Dervishes actually defeated the Cold One Knights with the support of Lore of Sigmar. They'll be pushing off all these Cold One Riders alongside with some regrouped Warbird Riders. And now the Tin Can Patriarch as well as the well-groomed Constantine will be returning here, hoping to pin down all these Scourge Runners who have ran out of ammo. And now even the Tin Can Winged Lances will be charging in, pinning down the Scourge Runners, hoping to destroy the unit right here and now. But Malekith, he is following closely, dropping in, terrifying some of my units with that leadership attack. The Cowboy Dervishes are terrified by the sight of the mighty Seraphon routing from combat. The rest of the units are holding for now and beating down one unit of the Scourge Runner chariots. Not even the Hold Your Ground will be able to keep them in the fight. And now Malekith, who has returned to the sky, is dropping a breath attack onto Volkmar the Grim. But unfortunately, due to the wonky aiming, it actually did more damage to the Scourge Runner chariots. A quite unlucky friendly fire situation right there. And now the other Scourge Runner chariots will also be pushed off by the Featherhead Lancers and the character squad. But at the back, we have a lot of infantry incoming. Still have quite a few healthy Bleak Swords and Dread Spears, and also a very healthy Shade unit. The armor piercing is a great threat to my characters as they're chipping away the little health remains of Volkmar the Grim. Yes, he can heal, but any damage done will accumulate over time. So to silence the shades, the cowboy dervishes will be charging into combat. While the characters are pushing into this blob fight, my opponent made a huge mistake here, blobbing all this infantry around the warrior priest and Volkmar, making it a prime target for soulfire bombardment, destroying all these infantry in a quick hurry. But on the other hand, we have the cowboy dervishes, the pistoliers being routed by Seraphon, Malakiv, and also the Shades. And now Malakiv, returning from the fight, is now dropping a nasty breath attack on Volkmar. Despite Volkmar able to heal up the damage, it will take time, and time is not exactly what we can afford now, as the Shades are now freed up, shooting point blank into Volkmar the Grim, dishing out some massive pain against my character. And with Malakiv dropping in, Volkmar is not having an unbreakable trait without his altar, so he will be terrified, pushed off, despite the Shield of Faith buff providing additional leadership for the surrounding units. The warrior priest will be remaining in combat, putting in some massive counter punching onto Malakiv, down to 33 HP. It was so close, but he is standing and pushing off my warrior priest instead. And with the infantry support, the dread spears blocking all these war wagons, they were not able to put the final blow onto the Witch King. But now Volkmar is returning. Thankfully for me here, this is not exactly Constantine, and this is Volkmar who has healing. He will be standing here, defying all odds against the Dark Elves, the Witch King, inspiring the remaining Empire troops to hold the line. Now Seraphon drops his last breath attack, but most of them actually whiffed, landing more into the Dark Elf troops instead of on Volkmar. And now Malakiv himself dropping in, Seraphon taking a huge leap onto Volkmar, but Volkmar skillfully dodged that, returning to put another hit into Malakiv, and Malakiv is slain. Volkmar putting in one final blow, putting down Seraphon and the Witch King mounted on top of Seraphon, accomplishing the unthinkable. And now with only the Shades remaining in combat, I'm feeling rather comfortable rushing in all my remaining units into combat, including some regrouped straight swords Tar Guards. Their anti-infantry armor piercing will be great against everything in this Dark Elf blob, especially these Shades are now being cut down in droves by all these buffed up straight sword Tar Guards. With some pistoliers recharging as well as another final soulfire bombardment, these Shades are taking massive damage. And now even the warrior priest, the Tin Can Patriarch, charges in. A second soulfire bombardment is about to drop, but at this point, either the Dark Elf routed or the Dark Elf player threw in the towel. Now at the post-battle screen, let's predict the performance of Kislev against Game 1 and 2 factions based on the performance of this whole Empire army. For the front line, the Free Company militia representing the armored Kossars, they didn't really do too well here with their lack of melee attack stats, but they were able to shred through all those light cavalry from the Dark Elves with the missile attacks and heavy armor, as well as the better melee stats in the armored Kossars. These frontline troops for Kislev will be the perfect counter to any light armored troops holding the line, and act as a counter even against some, say, flying troops or any light cavalry that tries to threaten the front line. Really, light cavalry that is very common in a lot of the Game 1 and 2 races is something that you definitely don't want to bring against Kislev. With the cavalry, the Empire Knights here, or the Winged Lancers in Kislev, they can easily counter your cheap mobility, while the armored Kossars, their pistols will shoot them down, or if you charge them into the Kossars, they will be blended up in hand-to-hand combat. Although one thing about Kislev is they do not have healing, just like here, the Demogryph Knights here, who is supposed to be the anti-large armor-piercing monsters with great melee stats, they were not able to perform too well, as the Shades, the armor-piercing missiles on the Dark Elf roster, was able to shoot them to pieces, which is gonna be a huge problem for Kislev when they were pitted against the Game 1 and 2 races, because Game 1 and 2 races has a lot of missile fire that can deal with your armor. We have, say, the Lore of Metal to lower your armor with Plague of Rust, and also AP missiles like Weight Watchers, Dark Shards, Shades over here, handgunners with a much longer range than the Teen Flamers or the Cafe Shotguns, as well as a bunch of Giselles and whatnot. The lack of healing to top up the damage mitigate all these AP missile damage will be the downfall of Kislev War Sleds and also Warbear Riders. Of course, the lullaby from the Patriarch and Constantine will probably help out a bit, but it's limited to 3 uses only, so the healing will be very limited. Now, War Sled is like War Wagons but much better in melee. If you use them more conservatively and not charging them recklessly into melee combat and use up their ammo, they might actually accumulate a lot of damage over time, and afterwards, charging into melee disrupt your enemy and dish out the pain in close quarters. As for Pistoliers, who are representing the Dervish Riders, we have some of them not doing too well as they got thrown into melee combat, absorbing the ammo from the Scourge Runners, but if you can give them proper support, say the character buffs from the Patriarchs, Constantine or Boris, they might be able to lift some heavyweight in the correct situation as some kind of a last resort. Getting over 3 times its cost here, the Pistoliers truly outperformed itself, and I'm sure the Dervish Riders will have a similar performance if given the right support, especially given they have the Borrow Blood passive that gives them Unbreakable, helping them to hold even longer in melee combat. Now for the Tsar Guards, Straight Sword, Tsar Guards, Great Sword, they did a pretty good job against the regular infantry of the Dark Elves, but they will probably struggle against big giant armor-piercing monsters, chariots, and also armor-piercing missiles, especially given the lack of healing. This will be a huge problem for Kislev overall. As for the characters, the Warrior Priest or the Tin Can Patriarch doing most of the damage from the Soulfire Bombardment, so I don't expect the actual Patriarch to do as much damage, but with the War Bears buffing its armor-piercing damage, it probably can do some heavy lifting still. Volkmar Grim or the Tidier Constantine did not do too much damage, but most of the kills are from the Soulfire Bombardment in late game, and yeah, not expecting Constantine to do too much damage either in combat, mostly using the abilities to support his army. Now for the Dark Elf army, we have the Dread Spears and Bleak Swords not doing too much here as they got cut down by the Great Sword units. Also, some of them got shot up pretty hard by the Free Company Militia, being charged by the War Wagons and the combination of Demogryph Knights, but most importantly, Volkmar Grim and the Warrior Priest dropping those Soulfire Bombardment in turns, blasting them into Smithereens. Now Dark Riders with shields, one of them got charged down by the Empire Knights, and the other got shot down by the crossfire of Free Company Militia and the Cold One Knights. One of them was not able to do too much damage here due to being charged down by the Demogryphs, but the other, due to them engaging in the Empire earlier and then start chasing down my War Wagons, did some hefty damage. Scourge Runner Chariots, not exactly amazing in terms of performance, barely earning back their own value. As for Malekith here, a very powerful melee combatant and also Soul Stealer spammer, well, 93 kills, 2,868 damage, put a huge dent in the health of my characters and the War Wagons as well, but thankfully Volkmar has healing, so managed to punch him back and shut him down instead. Also, the anti-large armor-piercing damage from the Demogryph with Halberds, they were able to cut him down pretty early. Of course, they did have the 60% damage resistance buff from Warrior Priest as well as the Volkmar Grim's Shield of Sigmar, but when you think about it, Katarina also have a 60% damage resistant buff with the Crystal Sanctuary. Of course, it comes with the price of not being able to move, but still, it will be really useful to help the Warbear Riders tank in combat. And then if you buff them up with some other buffs from, say, the Patriarch, things might actually go similarly with the Warbear Riders. And yeah, that's basically it for today's battle. I hope you enjoy these speculations about Kislev, and if you do and want to see more of them, remember to hit the like and subscribe to get notified every time I upload a new video. They will be ranging from battle replays like this one, wild army builds, tips and strategies for Total War Warhammer multiplayer, and also occasionally meme videos. And yeah, that's basically it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.